The story begins in the African savannah, where a female cheetah was spending some time with her cubs. Suddenly, they heard a hunter approaching. A little while later, a lion came and moved towards the cheetah. The mother tried to save her cubs by running to divert the lion away, but despite her speed, she ended up surrounded by lionesses who attacked her, and the female cheetah was killed. After a little while, the hunters left. They didn't even realize that the cubs were hiding there. They got separated in the thick grass of the jungle. One of the cubs kept walking all night and ended up on the road. Just then, a car came near him and a collision was about to happen. But driver Peter turned the car in time. When he saw that a small animal was alone, he and his son, Jane, decided to rescue it. Soon they realized that it was a cheetah cub. Peter told Jane that one day they would have to send it back to the jungle, but Jane had grown attached to it. He thought he would keep it with him until it grew up. The next morning, Peter and Jane took him to their farm where they raised other stray animals. There, Jane introduced the little cheetah to his mother, and his mother named him Duma. Gradually, Duma became a part of their family. Months passed, and Duma grew into a very fast cheetah. At the same time, Peter taught Jane to be a responsible young man. He knew how to drive, cook, fix things, everything. But one day, while working on the farm, Peter started feeling sick and collapsed on the tractor. He had to be taken to the hospital immediately, and after some time, he returned home and met his wife. It seemed that he had completely recovered. The next morning, he called Jane and said, "Let's race with Duma to see how fast he can run." Peter sat on the motorcycle and Jane sat in the sidecar, and they sped down the road. Jane recorded everything with a camera and saw that Duma easily left them behind. The cheetah ran at a speed of 50 miles per hour. Returning home, Kristen tutored her son, but suddenly she started crying. The son asked what happened, but the mother hid it and said, "You continue studying." The next morning, Jane and Duma were playing in the treehouse. Then Peter came and said, "It's time to release him into the jungle now. We can't keep him with us anymore. Duma is starting to grow up. He will have to go back to his real home in the jungle." Jane didn't want to leave his friend, but Peter insisted and showed him a map. He showed a hill that was a little far from them. Duma will be able to live well there. Peter promised that next week we will go there for a picnic and spend our last day with Duma. The boy had no other option, so he waited. But one night, Jane and Duma heard the sound of an ambulance. Jane hurried over and saw his mother. She hugged her son and said that Dad's condition has worsened. This time, Peter couldn't survive. The next morning, his funeral was held. Jane said a final goodbye to his beloved father. The next few days were the toughest for their family. They were all trying to adapt to the new circumstances. Then Kristen told her son that we would have to rent out this farm and move to the city. Now, without her husband, it was very difficult for her to manage everything. That's why now Jane's mother wants to go to the city and live with her sister. However, Jane was determined not to part with his friend Duma. He decided that he would keep Duma with him until the nature reserve people came to take him. Finally, the day to move houses arrived. They went to Jane's aunt's house with the whole family. Jane's aunt didn't like having a cheetah in her house at all. Kristen promised that Duma is very calm. He won't do anything. The next morning, Kristen dropped Jane off at his new school and went to look for a job. Duma was sitting on the sofa, but then he got bored and started wandering around the house. Suddenly, he climbed onto the dining table, which scared Gwen so much that she ran out of the house, leaving the door open. As a result, the cheetah ran out towards the city and started following Jane. Far away in school, Jane was sitting in his class when he saw Duma through the window. But a little while later, Duma ran away and shouts echoed in the school. Chaos ensued everywhere, and the cheetah kept running inside the building. At that moment, 2 policemen entered the school with guns, wondering what had happened. Jane immediately started looking for Duma so he could find him before they did. He kept looking everywhere, and when he looked in the bathroom, some mischievous boys surrounded him. Jane wasn't afraid and stood his ground, but the boys started pushing him down and hitting him for no reason. Just then, Duma came out of a bathroom stall and roared loudly, causing the boys to run away in fear. After that, Jane tried to take Duma away, but the police saw the cheetah and started chasing both of them. Jane and Duma ran fast and escaped from the police. They both hid in a park until everything calmed down. Jane understood that Duma wasn't safe in this big city. Then he remembered his dad's plan to take Duma to his new home on the hill. He decided he had to save his friend. Jane went back to his farm, took Peter's old motorcycle and the map and set out on the same path. After a few hours, the motorcycle ran out of fuel and then had to stop on a deserted road. Jane had only one bottle of water, so he pushed the motorcycle and walked a bit further and saw a crashed plane. Jane decided to set up camp right there. At the end of the day, he slept inside the plane while Duma stood guard outside. Night was about to fall when Duma saw a man approaching from afar. That man saw the motorcycle in the desert and started to steal it. The commotion woke Jane up and he asked, "Who are you?" Duma then approached him and the man got scared. In his panic, he pulled out his knife. But Jane said, "This cheetah is my friend. It won't harm you. Don't worry." The man said, "My name is Rip and I'm headed south." But Jane said, "This is the west direction." He promised a ride on the motorcycle in exchange for some water. Rip agreed and introduced him to his small pet monkey, Machaka, whom he had met during this journey. Now they had to find a way out of the desert somehow. While looking inside the plane, Jane found a parachute. As soon as he saw the parachute, he got an idea. In the morning, he tied the parachute to a stick and attached it to the motorcycle, just as ships sail with the help of winds on the sea. Now the wind began to pull the motorcycle swiftly, and they soon crossed the entire dry field. After that, Rip went looking for water. He found a piece of land where he thought the river might be underground. He started digging, and after a while found enough water for the rest of the journey. But for now, food was also needed. While they were looking for food, Jane spotted a large ostrich from a distance. He thought to test Duma's hunting skills. He signaled Duma and sent him to hunt. Duma ran after the ostrich, and both disappeared into the jungle. A few minutes later, Jane went to see what had happened. He saw that the ostrich was gone, but Duma had found its eggs. These eggs can be eaten. But Rip laughed and said that if this cheetah stays like this, it won't survive in the African jungle. It has to become a real hunter. Jane showed him a map and pointed out a mountainous place where Duma could stay safely. "My dad told me that he would be far from all hunters." Looking at the map, Rip said that to reach there, you would have to pass through the Okavango. It's a very dangerous place. Very few people manage to get out of there alive. Rip said it would be better if you went to the city and sold the cheetah for good money. But Jane refused. He said he would never sell his friend. Seeing Jane's determination, Rip decided to accompany him a bit further and said, "I can go with you for a while longer." Both set out towards that place. On the way, Jane saw his father's old compass, which was pointing west. Rip wanted to go there by a different route. Jane was a bit suspicious of him, but still followed him. Both reached an old village. That place was deserted, and human bones were scattered there. Rip said that maybe the villagers had fallen victim to some strange attack. Looking at the place, Rip found a sharp point and used it to make a spear so that they could defend themselves if an animal came. He and Jane were wandering in the village. Suddenly, a helicopter came and began to hover above them. Rip said that there were some bad people in it and told the boy to quickly hide in a house with Duma. But actually, Jane's mother Christine was in the helicopter, who had come with the police to search for her lost son. A few minutes later, the helicopter left. Jane had no idea that his mother was there. Gradually, his suspicion of Rip began to grow. At night, Rip lit a fire nearby so that lions and such would stay away. He asked Jane, "Do you know the story behind the black stripes on a cheetah's face?" The boy said, "My dad used to say that these stripes prevent sunlight from striking their eyes." But Rip said that there's an old story behind it. Once, a very small cheetah cub got lost from its mother. The female cheetah searched a lot for him but never found him. The mother was very sad and cried day and night. Then those stripes began to appear on the face of every cheetah, as a symbol of the mother's sorrow. After this story, they all fell asleep. In the morning, Rip went out to find some more food. He found an old diamond mine. He went inside, thinking maybe some diamonds were still left. Jane didn't trust Rip anymore, so he escaped from there with Duma. But suddenly, he heard Rip's scream from inside and the sound of him falling. Jane ran inside and saw Rip buried in dirt. He quickly removed some dirt so Rip could breathe. Rip thanked him and said, "Remove the rest of the dirt too." But Jane refused and asked, "First tell me where you're taking me." Rip said, "I don't understand what you're saying. Get me out first, then we'll talk." Then the boy said, "I know we are heading south, but I don't want to go in that direction." He suspected that Rip wanted to take him to the city and sell Duma. Greed had entered his mind. Rip explained, I'm just going past the side of the mountains. This is just a slightly safer route, nothing else. But Jane didn't listen to him and left him there. Jane picked up Rip's backpack, took Machaka along, and set off again on her journey to deliver Duma to the right place. After a few hours, both friends reached a long river at the base of the mountains. According to the map, they had to cross that river, and only then would they be able to reach their destination. Using the method taught by her father, Jane made a small raft and jumped into the river. They went a little downstream in the river. The water seemed calm at first, but within a few minutes, Duma began acting strangely. As soon as Jane looked ahead, there were many rocks. The boy tried to steer the raft to the other side, but the strong current overturned it. All three fell into the water and struggled to get out. Things got worse when a group of crocodiles attacked them. Jane picked up Rip's spear and tried to defend herself. Somehow, by luck, they managed to reach the shore and the crocodile threat was averted. After this incident, they passed through a large cornfield. Upon reaching the other side, Jane saw a large herd of African buffalo. Machaka got scared by their sound and ran away. Duma now ran swiftly to catch a buffalo. Jane couldn't see him and also went after him. But then several hours passed and there was no sign of Duma. Moreover, night was about to fall, making Jane a very easy prey. Still, Jane did not give up and kept searching for her friend. Eventually, she came across a forest where she encountered a wild boar. Jane climbed a tree out of fear. Then a venomous spider started crawling on her face. She remained completely calm until the wild boar left. Afterwards, Jane came down and started searching for Duma. Duma had actually gotten trapped in a snare in the middle of the forest. The cheetah tried hard to free itself, but it was caught in a trap made by hunters. These hunters sell the animals from the forest. Jane had to rescue her friend quickly. While searching in the forest, suddenly the same monkey jumped onto her face. It was very happy to see Jane, but then the wild boar returned and started chasing them. Jane started running, but after a while she fell and fainted. It seemed as though everything was over. But then, after a while, Jane regained consciousness near a fire. Duma was sitting next to her and Rip was gently stroking him. Actually, Rip had come at the last moment, freed the cheetah from the trap, and also saved Jane from the wild boar's attack. Hearing this, Jane apologized for leaving him alone, but Rip said that you weren't wrong. My actual plan was to take you back and collect the reward so I could return to my family. Rip explained that he had left his village years ago. He had left his wife and children in there and went to the city to try his luck. But one problem after another occurred there, and he ended up in jail. He had been incarcerated for years. After being released from jail, Rip kept trying to earn money so he could return to his family. After hearing all this, Jane gained some trust in him. Rip promised that he would help take Duma to his new home. Before that, both set out in search of food and found 2 deer in the forest. Jane told Duma to run after them, but the cheetah hadn't learned how to hunt yet. That's why he once again abandoned his prey. They were very hungry, but couldn't get anything. In the evening, they saw many lights in a part of the forest where some tourists had come to camp. Now Rip and Jane made a plan. At sunrise, Jane approached the group of tourists and acted as if she had been bitten by a poisonous snake. The tourists came to help her, but a snake emerged from inside Jane's shirt that looked like a black mamba. They panicked and ran away from there. This way, Jane and Rip took all their food and left. After this, they set off in a boat via the river. Jane gave Rip her saved money as a gift. He said, "I'm paying you for helping me. Please take it." Rip was happy with this, and in return he gave Jane a small diamond he found in a cave. This would be a token of their friendship. After crossing the river, they continued walking through the mountain paths. On the way, Duma spotted the remains of a deer hunt. Rip said there might be lions nearby, but still, Duma started eating the deer. Jane told Duma to share the food with them too, but the cheetah didn't like it and roared to scare Jane. Seeing this, Jane was shocked because Duma had never done this before. But Rip said to leave Duma alone. He's starting to adapt to life in the jungle. When Duma finished eating, they went to rest in a cave. There, they saw ancient cave paintings. Rip said his village is nearby, and he and his father used to camp here during childhood. But now everything had changed. He said that one day this cave and the people who come here will also be forgotten. Hearing this, Jane became thoughtful. She said she doesn't like change at all because everything changed in her life after her father's death. She felt that after Duma leaves, more changes would come, and she wasn't happy about it at all. Rip explained to him that change is the law of the world. It cannot be stopped, but not every change is necessarily bad. See, because of that change, you have become a strong and courageous boy today. And Duma is also transitioning from a pet to adapting to the ways of the jungle. Duma understood the matter, but saying goodbye to his friend wasn't easy for him. The next day, they came out of the cave and passed through a large field. From a distance, Rip saw his old village. He took Jane there too, but suddenly a swarm of flies attacked them. To save Jane, Rip took off his coat and wrapped it completely around him, and the flies began to bite him instead. Rip's whole body was swollen from the flies' venom, but he kept Jane covered until the swarm left. Hours later, in the evening, Rip tried to move forward, but his eyes started to close and his hands wouldn't move. Then heavy rain started and predators began to roam in the darkness. Rip gathered some grass and told Jane to light her lighter so they could stay safe near the campfire. Luckily, the fire lit up and they both escaped from the predators. As soon as the situation improved while waiting for the rain to end, Jane thought about going to the village for help and told Duma to take care of Rip. But as soon as the boy left the fire, a pride of lions attacked him. Seeing his friend in danger, Duma ran after Jane and drew the lion's attention to himself. With his fast speed, he ran toward a cave and safely emerged from the other side, leaving the predators behind. By then, Jane had reached the village and met an elderly man. He gestured for help to save Rip. Despite not understanding the language, the elderly man called for some people, and they all went with Jane. They found Rip sleeping in the middle of the fire. As soon as they brought him back, Jane began calling out for his friend. Then Duma heard the sound of another cheetah and went to see it. The next morning, Jane was waiting outside the village while the elderly people were treating Rip. With the help of their herbs, the villagers completely removed the fly's venom from Rip's body. As soon as he regained consciousness, he saw his wife, 2 children, and mother. Rip started crying and began apologizing for being missing for so many years. Then he called Jane over and introduced him to his family. The family thanked Jane. Jane was happy that Rip had recovered, but was also worried that Duma hadn't returned. After a while, he left the village to search for Duma. After going a little further, he saw 2 cheetahs hunting a deer. One of them was Duma, who had now fully become a part of the jungle. Seeing this, Jane remembered his father's words that Duma should be allowed to live in his true home. Feeling sad, Jane began to turn back when suddenly Duma ran over to him and affectionately nuzzled him, just like he always did. Jane also said a heartfelt goodbye to him and promised, "I will never forget you." Rip saw the 2 friends parting ways and called Jane over to him. Tears welled up in the boy's eyes. A few days later, we see Kristen working on her farm, hoping that her son will return. And then Jane actually returned on his father's motorcycle. He was wearing the clothes of Rip's tribe. With him was his new friend Machaka, the monkey. Seeing her son, Kristen ran to him and hugged him tightly. Jane promised that he would never leave them alone again. Both of them began their lives anew. The circumstances were not the same as before, but Jane said, "Now I have become responsible. I will manage every single task on this farm just like Dad." Meanwhile, Duma was quite happy to have become a part of the jungle. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.